One of these records stands above all the others as being the most dangerous. That record is the water speed world record, how fast you can make yourself move while on the water. The current world record was set in 1978, and every official attempt to beat it since has resulted in the person attempting it getting themselves killed. But what makes the attempt so dangerous? It should be pretty obvious if you watch a video of one of these attempts. Traveling at insanely fast speeds of several hundred miles per hour on flimsy boats on a lake is a recipe for disaster waiting to happen. But before the current world record in 1978 was set, the record was already an elusive and deadly prize. Going fast on the water for most of history wasn't really an exciting feat until we figured out how to put gasoline engines on boats. In the 1930s, the competition for the water speed record was in a tight race that kept going back and forth between an American and British team of idiot geniuses. The first casualty in pursuit of the record was perhaps the ironically named Englishman Sir Henry Segrave, who in 1930 set the world record at 99 miles per hour. Apparently unsatisfied with not breaking past 100, he set out immediately afterwards on the same day to try again, but this time his boat struck an object in the water which caused it to capsize and killed both him and his co-pilot. The record continued to go back and forth between the Americans and the British until a guy named Malcolm Campbell, bet you'll never guess which of the countries he belonged to, locked the record in place in 1939 before that big global war kind of stopped people from trying for a while. Once the 1950s came around though and people started figuring out how to put jet engines on their boats, the fatalities of people trying really began to skyrocket. An Englishman named John Cobb wanted to be the first person to break the 200 mile per hour speed barrier and built a jet-powered boat called Crusader to do it. In 1952, out on Loch Ness, he managed to get up to 210 miles per hour and achieved his goal and the record, but the boat's front plane unfortunately collapsed, which caused the boat to instantly disintegrate, causing Cobb to die from shock. 2 years later, in 1954, the pursuit of the record would claim its next life. The Italian Motorboat Federation was offering a 5 million lira prize to any Italian that could beat the record, so two Italian businessmen built a piston-engine hydroplane named Lara 3. Traveling across a lake in northern Italy, the boat was going fast at 306 kilometers per hour, but ultimately became unstable and the pilots lost control of it. The boat somersaulted through the water and threw one of the pilots out, which didn't result in him surviving. Following these disasters, a guy named Donald Campbell, son of the previously mentioned Malcolm Campbell, decided to break the record himself. Learning many lessons from Cobb and the Italian designers, he created a new craft called K7 that returned to the classic three-pointer design that was built entirely out of metal to increase rigidity. Over the next 9 years, Campbell and K7 went on to break the world record 7 times, finally getting up to a speed of 445 kilometers per hour in 1967. He became the most prolific water speed record breaker of all time, and he could have retired then, but for whatever sad reason, he didn't. He wanted to go even further and equipped K7 with even more powerful engines to try and beat his own record for an 8th time. He sped across the lake at an average speed of 475 kilometers per hour, and whether he got cocky or just reckless, he decided to go back across the lake immediately before the water had settled down. On this return run, K7 began to lose stability, and just 400 meters short of the finish line, K7's nose lifted beyond its critical pitch, took off, somersaulted, and smashed into the water nose first, breaking up as it cartwheeled across the surface. It took 2 weeks of searching just to discover the wreckage, but it wasn't until 33 years later in 2001 that Campbell's body was actually discovered. The world record that I mentioned at the beginning of this video was finally set in 1978 by the Australian Ken Warby, when he managed to get an average speed of 511 kilometers per hour during his run. He survived to talk about it, but the next 2 attempts to beat his record did not. The first was by an American named Lee Taylor, who had already gotten himself into a horrible crash that nearly killed him over a decade previously. Determined to take the record from Warby though, he scheduled his attempt for November 13th, 1980, but when the day arrived, he found the conditions on the lake unfavorable and cancelled. Not wanting to disappoint the spectators and media though, he went on a test run anyway and hit a swell which caused the boat to start violently shaking at the high speeds. The boat ended up collapsing into the water, which claimed Taylor's life in front of everybody who would gather to watch him. The The final official attempt at breaking the record was in 1989, when Craig Arfons raced in his fiberglass Kevlar boat that's probably an Xbox Live gamertag somewhere named Rain X Challenger. But like so many before him, his boat somersaulted at 483 kilometers per hour and killed him. Ever since those two disasters, no official attempts have been made to break Ken Warby's record set back in 1978. But despite the high accident and fatality rate, the water speed record remains highly coveted by both boat enthusiasts and racers. I know some of you are thinking right now about building your own boats to try and beat the old record, but if you do it, you better look good while doing it, and you and I can both be helped by Dollar Shave Club. They're much more than just razors. They have hairstyling, body wash, toothpaste, and